Diddy's legal team is under intense pressure following a newly filed motion aimed at discrediting key testimony in the ongoing investigation. The focus of the filing is testimony from Miss Bongolan, commonly known as Bon, who previously alleged that Diddy held her over a balcony at Cassie's apartment on the 17th floor. Critics have claimed Bon may have committed perjury, but a closer look at the legal documents reveals what appears to be a desperate attempt by Diddy's attorneys to suppress a statement that poses serious risks to the defense. The motion, filed on June 5th, requests the court to strike Bon's testimony not because it's proven false, but because it may be too credible to withstand cross-examination. One pivotal element in the case is a FaceTime call Bon received from music producer Rob Holiday, a former close friend. This call occurred before Bon had publicly disclosed any intent to pursue legal action. According to filings, Holiday allegedly, while at Diddy's home, referenced her potential legal move, raising serious questions about how he had access to that information. The prosecution argues that this communication points to possible obstruction of justice, or at the very least, a clear indication of guilt. Instead of addressing the content of this exchange, Diddy's legal team appears to be focusing on technicalities and procedural dismissals. The government has responded by reinforcing the credibility of Bon's account and pushing back against what it calls an attempt to silence a key witness. This escalating legal battle suggests that more substantial evidence may soon be brought forward, evidence that could challenge the foundation of Diddy's defense. Diddy's legal team has now shifted its defense strategy, not by denying the allegations, but by questioning the credibility of the witness, Bana. In their recent court filing, the attorneys argue that Bana is either misremembering key events or deliberately fabricating them. A direct quote from the filing claims, "It is obvious that Bana either cannot accurately recall the event or is simply lying, rather than disproving her claims with evidence. The defense is attempting to undermine her reliability, a tactic that signals damage control." The filing paints her as confused, emotional, or inconsistent, without offering solid counterproof. At the center of this legal maneuvering is a FaceTime call made by music producer Rob Holiday. The government intends to highlight this call as crucial testimony. According to their narrative, Holiday, while reportedly sitting in Diddy's backyard with Diddy nearby, contacted Bana just 3 days after the alleged incident. During that call, he hinted at a settlement offer, despite the fact that Bana had not yet disclosed any intention to take legal action. This timing is critical. It raises the question, how could Rob Holiday have known to reach out unless someone close to Diddy, possibly Diddy himself, informed him? The prosecution suggests this points to an effort to quietly contain the situation before it escalated into public or legal scrutiny. Diddy's legal team is now pushing to have that call excluded from the record entirely. Their argument hinges on labeling the conversation as hearsay. In fact, the term hearsay appears repeatedly in the filing. One excerpt reads, "The statements the government seeks to elicit are clearly hearsay with no applicable exception." Another argues that the conversation is not relevant and should be excluded under Rule 403 of the Federal Rules of Evidence. In essence, the defense is asking the court to disregard the call not because it didn't happen, but because admitting it might portray Diddy in a negative light. The underlying message in their argument is this: even if it appears suspicious, it shouldn't be considered as proof of guilt. One of the most critical elements in the case now centers on Rob Holiday's call to the alleged victim, made from what the government asserts was Diddy's own backyard. Prosecutors emphasize that Holiday had both a close personal and professional connection with Diddy, a detail the defense appears determined to downplay. In their filing, Diddy's legal team argues that Holiday should be seen merely as a friend, not someone acting on Diddy's behalf. A direct quote from the document states, "The witness characterized Rob Holiday and Combs as mere friends," inconsistent with the notion that Holiday was Combs' agent. However, prosecutors argue that regardless of whether Holiday held a formal title, his actions calling the alleged victim and offering a settlement carry significant implications. The question is not about titles. If someone in Diddy's inner circle contacted a witness to discuss a cash settlement following an alleged assault, and that person did so from Diddy's property, the lines of responsibility are difficult to ignore. Whether Holiday was an agent, a friend, or simply a guest, the prosecution argues that the intent and timing of that call speak volumes. Diddy's legal strategy, once again, appears to focus on technicalities. Rather than denying that the conversation occurred, the team is pushing the narrative that it doesn't meet the legal threshold for admissibility. A quote from the filing reads, "Even the facts as alleged by the government will not render the statements admissible." Their position hinges on the idea that because Holiday may not have been officially on payroll, the call should be considered irrelevant. This move is being viewed as a classic legal maneuver and attempt to obscure damaging testimony by exploiting procedural rules. The government, however, argues that this isn't about technical formalities, it's about clear, intentional communication, intended to influence a potential legal outcome. In a surprising twist, Diddy's team has even accused prosecutors of manipulating the witness. According to the filing on page 3, the defense claims the government requested permission to lead the witness, implying the prosecution information may be guiding the narrative too closely. What's becoming increasingly clear is that the battle in court is no longer just about what happened but about what can be proven, admitted, and heard by a jury despite clear instructions from the court. Prosecutors proceeded to introduce material the judge had flagged as inadmissible, prompting Diddy's legal team to accuse the government of disregarding procedural boundaries. However, those same attorneys are continuing their own efforts to suppress a FaceTime call that the prosecution claims strongly suggests a deliberate cover-up. At the center of this is the timeline. Bana, who alleges she was assaulted, received a call from someone closely connected to Diddy, Rob Holiday. The call, reportedly made from Diddy's backyard, came before she had told anyone she was considering legal action. It's now alleged that Diddy's team offered a settlement starting at $1 million to quietly resolve the situation. Now, Diddy's lawyers are attempting to use procedural tactics to erase that call from the record, discredit the woman, and shift blame onto the prosecution, framing the entire response as standard legal defense. But the sequence of events raises difficult questions. If there was no wrongdoing, why attempt to silence her? Why the urgency to suppress this call? This filing does more than deny responsibility. It acknowledges the strength of Bana's claims through its intensity. Whether the date of the event was the 20th or the 22nd, whether her memory was clouded, the one undeniable fact remains: Rob Holiday, seated beside Diddy, reached out with a settlement offer days after the alleged incident. That single moment continues to unravel the narrative. Diddy's team is fighting to control how much silence can be bought before the truth slips through the cracks. When blurred memories, backyard calls, and million-dollar offers collide, what are we really watching? A defense or a performance? Keep your eyes open. The velvet curtain is lifting, and what's behind it might not stay hidden much longer.